Welcome. Thanks for being here at the Dream Empowerment Network podcast, The Den, where we equip kingdom minded believers with spiritual truths to walk in divine authority, wisdom, and wealth. I'm Deb Howard, your abundant life coach. I'm so glad you're here today. I'm glad to be here on today. I know it's been a minute, but I am glad to be here. I really want to talk to you today about resetting your new year. Now, I know we're in the new year. I won't say well into the new year, but I guess we're within the first couple of weeks. But it's still a good time to, I think, look at some things to ensure that this year goes as smoothly as possible. Now, before we talk about all the things, goals, vision, etc., before we talk about resetting anything, even though we're going to talk about that later, I want to talk to you about something a little more personal, something a little deeper. This episode isn't about forgiving other people. It's about forgiving yourself, because many of us aren't frustrated with life. We're not even frustrated with people. We think we are. We are really quietly upset with ourselves. I am an introvert. And one of the things about introverts, I'm sure you know already, is that we like our quiet time. I like spending time with myself. Like, I have no problem spending time with myself. Um, but that also means that I spend a lot of time thinking, reflecting, doing all the things, thinking about what I should have did, what I didn't do, what I could have did, what I should have made time to do, etc., etc. You know, all the entrepreneur things. I don't know why my glasses keep fogging up. Sorry, y'all. And sometimes, we don't realize that a lot of our frustration is really with ourselves. And we don't always realize, the energy, mental, physical, and even spiritual energy that we consume, kind of holding on to our own mistakes. There's a kind of grudge that we don't talk about too often, right? It's not loud. It doesn't show up as anger. You know how it shows up. It shows up in thoughts, right? I should have did better. I should have known better. Why did I do that? I say that to myself all the time. Why did I do that? Or why didn't I do that? Why did I let that happen? I wasted too much time and energy. I messed that up big time. Thoughts, right? And we think to ourselves, these are just, it's just me correcting myself. These aren't reflections and these aren't good thoughts. These are verdicts. We're convicting ourselves in our minds. And the tricky part is, it's usually not the big things that we hold against ourselves, right? It's the small moments. The conversations that we replay over and over. Maybe a conversation with a friend or a family member. Why did I say that, or why didn't I say that? The season we stayed too long, right? At that job, at the church, at that person's house. The moment we said something that we wish we hadn't. We wish we hadn't said anything at all. We wish we could take back. And you can't, because you've said it. Those little things don't feel heavy individually, but together they become a weight. The weight you feel, but you can't quite name. Have you ever felt tired, but not because you did too much? I'm talking about, and you know what I'm talking about, that low level exhaustion, that irritability, that feeling of being easily annoyed, even with people you love. Sometimes that isn't life draining us. It's unresolved self judgment. Holding a grudge against yourself costs energy, spiritual energy, mental energy, and yes, even physical energy. You see, our brains are amazing, and so are our bodies. But everything that we process in our brain and reprocess over and over, mm, it has an impact on us. And sometimes it's a weight, yes, even a mental weight that keeps us on edge, that keeps us, in a place. It's a nervous system on edge. It creates tension, and you don't consciously notice it, but your body feels it. Some of the weight you've been carrying isn't responsibility, it's punishment. Self punishment. And here's something we don't always want to admit: when we're still judging ourselves, right? We're also more suspicious of others. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because our inner world is tense. Our spirit man, our mental being is on alert. So self-judgment sharpens our perception of what we see in others. We read into tone. We assume motives, right? We react too quickly. Have you ever looked at a social media post? And I'm sure you've seen one by now. People around this time of year start making posts about what they like and don't like, about their circle, about people, what they're going to take and not take. Have you ever looked at someone's post and just got irritated? Now, listen, they didn't call you out. They're not talking about you. Regardless of what you think, they didn't call you out. But you're irritated. You might even get angry, right? I mean, I think some of the stuff we see in the comments on social media kind of proves my point, because people react and they assume motives and they react to what they assume quickly. A lot of what we call discernment is actually unresolved disappointment in ourselves. We're not always responding to people. We're responding to the version of us that we haven't forgiven yet. Ouch. Let me be very clear here. Self-forgiveness, it's not about pretending nothing happened, right? Just like forgiving other people. It's not about pretending nothing happened. It's not about lowering your standards. It's not about avoiding accountability. Self-forgiveness is integration. Listen, when we make a mistake, no matter how big or small, as believers, right? Hopefully we learn from that mistake. And when we learn from that mistake, this is how I look at it. We're changing identities, right? We've grown, we've matured, right? Because now I know that if I do that, this is going to be the outcome. I've learned that lesson. I'm not going to do that anymore. Even if it's a missed opportunity. I realize I've missed an opportunity. I regret it, but I'm not going to do that anymore. So I've grown. That person doesn't exist anymore because now you, the one who's learned the lesson, right? You taken on even a new identity because now you know more than that person that made that mistake. It's called growth. So self-forgiveness is part of our growth process. Self-forgiveness says, I acknowledge what happened. Listen, I acknowledge I missed some opportunities. I acknowledge I should have connected more. I should have went to this event or not went to that event. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that I hurt people's feelings. And maybe I was hurt. But I keep the lesson and I release the punishment. See, forgiveness is about releasing the punishment. Now, we're talking about self-forgiveness. Sometimes when we forgive other people, that's the hard part, right? We want punishment, right? We want some level of revenge. But today, even though I'm talking about self, it's also very critical for us to have that kind of freedom when we forgive others. Releasing the punishment. Okay, let me not go too deep into that. Growth requires honesty, and healing requires mercy. And today we want to heal. Before we can reset our year, before we can make all the advances and do all the great things that I know God wants you to do in 2026, we've got to heal, forgive, heal, right? They're almost synonymous. Because when I forgive myself of all the things, right? Not just the big things, but the small things. I'm healing myself, right? I'm bringing wholeness to myself, to my being, to my mind, so that I can execute freely without carrying the baggage, the attachments, the weight of all the things, all the regret, all the shame, all the unforgiveness, all the judgment. And yes, the punishment. If you learned from it, you don't need to keep bleeding from it. I kind of like that. If you've learned from it, listen, you don't have to keep bleeding from it. You don't need to keep feeling the pain of it. You can release it. And before we can really walk into this new year, your new year in freedom, then it requires us, yes, to have that compassion for ourselves that we want to offer to others, that we preach and teach and proclaim that we give to others. We've got to have it for ourselves also. We've got to be able to recognize that, yeah, I made some mistakes. Yeah, I missed some things. Yeah, I could have did that better. Okay, I'm taking that lesson and I'm continuing to move forward. So as we reset this year, I want to offer you just a different starting point. Not pressure, not performance, but permission. You got permission today, right? Permission to stop carrying the verdict. Whether you were guilty, whether you found yourself guilty or innocent, listen, you're forgiven. So forgive yourself. Permission to stop rehearsing the mistake. I'm going to have to tape that on these eyeglasses that I have so I can look at that. Permission to stop rehearsing the mistake. Can I tell you I'm guilty of that? Ooh, child. When you are a thinker, an internalizer, I'm telling you, I replay all kinds of things. I'm getting better because I'm really starting to understand this concept that I've got to be free. Some of us think that we're not creative. Some of us think we don't have anything to offer. And it's not because we don't, because that's true, because it's not true. It's really because we have condemned our own selves because we're carrying so much unforgiveness about ourselves that we have not been able to grasp the concept of let me get the lesson and release the punishment. So you have permission to stop rehearsing that mistake today. Stop doing it. Stop it. If you got to write it down, if you feel like you're going to forget, go and write it down, child. But forget it out your mind. That's what I'm telling you. I'm a journaler, so I write a lot of my thoughts and things like that. But whatever you have to do to release it, you have permission to move forward today without dragging that weight. Listen, whatever it is. And I'm really focusing on small things because a lot of times I think, we may have an easier time with the big things. But the small things, the conversations, the missed opportunities, the connections, those of you who are entrepreneurs in ministry, right? Especially in ministry, right? What you should have said when you had the chance. That person you should have ministered to, touched, prayed with, whatever it is. You have permission to move forward without dragging that weight. Learn the lesson. Okay, next time I know. This year doesn't need a better version of you. No, it don't. It needs a freer version of you. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Remember, you've learned a lesson now. So you have a different identity, a different understanding even now. You've grown since that happened, even if it happened yesterday. Child, when you look at yesterday, you see a mistake, you see how that could have been done differently. You've grown. Okay, release the punishment. Forgive yourself, release the punishment. Awareness changes responsibility. Grace creates momentum. We want to be aware of areas that we could improve in. We want to be aware of those missed opportunities so we don't miss them again. But we also want to give ourselves grace so that we can continue to have momentum, so that we can continue to advance in what God has given us. So I want to end here with a few questions. You don't have to answer them out loud, but I just want you to think about this, right? Some things that we've already touched on. What am I still quietly upset with myself about? I want you to think about that. What am I quietly upset with myself about? What is it that I haven't let go? Is it a broken relationship, missed opportunity, a giving opportunity? What is it that you're quietly upset with yourself about? And what did that teach you? Okay, we've identified the thing that I'm still holding some judgment about on myself, right? Self judgment. What did that teach me? What can I pull out of that? I don't want to stay angry or bitter or even regretful, right? Because regret is kind of connected to unforgiveness. So what is it that situation or that opportunity is teaching me? Because I want to pull that out. The lessons that I learned, right, bring me to a new understanding. And my new understanding equates to a level of growth. Growth is good because now I can look at this from a different perspective if I can pull the lesson out. What would change if I stopped punishing myself for this? How much freer would you be if you weren't replaying things over and over in your brain? Listen, my testimony is, and I'm telling y'all, I used to do this all the time. I still do it to some extent, but not nearly as much as I used to. You know, you can actually be walking around in 2026 and be living in 2016, in 2006, right? You can live in the regret and the mistakes of the past, even while you're in a whole different decade. So I really want you to take some time to think about this today. I just really felt that this was important, to discuss, to bring to your attention. I know how self forgiveness has impacted me, and it is so critical in order for us to move forward, in order for us to um, operate in all that God has for us. If He forgives us, and if you're a believer, I'm assuming you believe that God forgives, then why would we do something different than our Father? Yeah. So we've got to be able, even in the small things, to let it go. Can you say, let it go? Let it go. Let it go. Look, dig deep into yourself and know that if I don't let this go, I'm actually hindering something good from coming forward. That creativity, that idea, that invention, come on now. It might be behind the thing that I'm holding on to. So let it go. If nothing else, if you don't learn nothing else this year, listen, learn that to let it go. All right. So I want to tell you, let's just breathe. And I want you to release the grudge that you've held against yourself. In fact, declare it. I declare that I release any grudges, any old mistakes, missed opportunity, past oversights, anything. I release anything like that I've held against myself. I keep the wisdom. I learned a lesson because that's important. I want to get the lesson, but I want to let go of the weight. I want to let go of the punishment. I want to let go of replaying this movie over and over in my mind. I got too much to do to keep looking back or to keep allowing situations to replay over and over in my head and to continually reconvict me of something that I know um, I missed, right? I want to enter my new season clearer with clarity, right? That's the word I want to use, with clarity and more compassion, not only for myself, because if I can be more compassionate to myself, listen, I'm going to be more compassionate with others. I'm not going to be so quick to jump in folk comment. I'm not going to be so quick to pass judgment. If I can be compassionate to myself, then I can also pass that grace to others. Listen, this is the beginning of your reset, and it started today with self forgiveness. Listen, thanks for joining me on today. I am just so thrilled to be back in my space. I know I've missed a few weeks. Y'all, I took a little break. Yeah, that was part of the lesson that I've learned. I've learned to really take a break and to rest. I am really one that tends to keep going. And thank God for my leader, my apostle, who really has been ministering about rest. And sometimes it's difficult for us to rest because of the self punishment. Yeah, because we can't let things go. And I think I'm just sitting here thinking now, to an extent, that busyness can sometimes, I think, be part of the punishment that we put on ourselves. Sometimes we don't think we deserve to rest. That's a whole nother subject. I'm gonna leave you with that. I'm gonna let you think about that. But definitely what I want you to remember is to let it go. All right, forgive yourself. Give yourself that grace and that compassion that you give to others, and see how much easier and freer you will be as you execute the plans that God has for you. Listen, I want to also invite you, don't forget to go to my website, debhowardonline.com. We have some things coming up. I have some courses and classes coming up, some great things coming up. So you can also go there and get complimentary gratitude journal, a daily dose of gratitude. It's a journal that you can use. Gratitude is another strategy for wealth. Um, yes, we have to be grateful. And you know what? I'm thinking about gratitude, and I'm thinking how powerful gratitude is, and how it's also connected to self-forgiveness. Okay, but we won't get into that either. But you can go to debhowardonline.com and get that. And also, look at some other things that I have coming up. Listen, thanks for joining me on today. I hope you were blessed. I hope you'll join me on our next episode as we continue discussing resetting the year. I know you will be blessed. And until then, you know what I'm going to say. Go have your most abundant day. I will see you soon.